George Santos, A Political Narcissist, Part 1. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. In order to educate you about narcissism, I tell you about the worldview of our kind. I explain to you all the various facets of the way that we function, the way that we operate, the way that we perceive you. I also utilize many real-life examples to drive home the point in a manner which enables you to increase your understanding. Our kind permeate every aspect of society, but there are certain arenas in which we are overrepresented. One of those is the political arena. And in this short series, I'm going to provide you with a glaring example of a narcissist in the political arena. I've explained previously that Biden, Trump, Bush, Clinton, all narcissists, varying sub-schools. Many of the presidents of the United States, many of the leaders in other countries, Bolsonaro, recently deposed president in Brazil, Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Emmanuel Macron in France, and many others besides, are narcissists and belong to our club. They are leaders of countries. But it isn't just the leaders that have a number of our kind amongst them. Throughout the whole political spectrum, members of Parliament, relevant ministers, members of the Senate and Congress in the United States, local politicians, narcissists are everywhere. The reason being is twofold. Firstly, the political arena caters magnificently to the prime aims. Getting your hands on political power enables one to control so many people. Tens of thousands at a local level, running up to hundreds of millions, if not billions, internationally, in some shape or form. All of those people who can be controlled by political will. It creates a massive fuel matrix. Millions upon millions, potentially, of tertiary sources. Some of those adoring and admiring you, turning up at rallies, chanting your name, cheering you in the streets. Others jeering and booing you. It's all fuel, never all the same. Certain sub-schools, of course, lap it up, revelling in being a pantomime villain, levelling in the hatred that's shown towards them, easily dismissing it as a consequence of their secure belief in their own superiority. But being within the political arena provides the opportunity to control so many people and to do so with a variety of tools afforded to that person by the political system and access to massive amounts of fuel. As a consequence of all of the people that can be met, character traits are there like a smorgasbord of opportunities. And when it comes to residual benefits, facades can be managed magnificently. There is the opportunity to make huge amounts of money. There is the opportunity to access networks that were hitherto off limits to that individual. It is little surprise, therefore, that the political arena proves so tempting to our kind. Furthermore, the second reason why the political arena is festooned with our kind is that essentially, in order to get ahead there, those that stand the best prospect of success are our kind. That's not to say that normals and empaths don't get ahead within the political arena. They do. But more usually, those that succeed are our kind. Why? The ability to function without a sense of conscience or guilt or remorse enables that narcissist to trample on people. It also allows the making of difficult decisions, and in a political arena, many difficult decisions have to be made. And therefore, there is an argument that in some instances our kind are better suited to that environment than others. Until, of course, such time it starts to go wrong. The ability to put oneself first ahead of everything else, operating with that rampant sense of entitlement, having no sense of accountability, no emotional empathy for anybody other than manifesting through facades fake emotional empathy. The demonstration of grandiosity, being haughty with one's opponents, and all of the various manipulations that must be deployed mean that our kind are ideally suited to the viper's nest that is the political environment. Because it's such an attraction to so many of our kind, in order to therefore survive within it, you need to be one of our kind. And therefore this brings us to a political narcissist at a lower level in terms of the political structure, but no less a narcissist all the same. And the roll call for this individual is pretty spectacular. So strap yourselves in and listen as I explain to you why George Santos is a political narcissist. George Anthony Divolda Santos, born 22nd of July 1988, is an American politician who is the U.S. representative for New York's 3rd Congressional District, serving since 2023. A member of the Republican Party, Santos was elected to Congress in 2022, after running unsuccessfully in 2020 against incumbent Thomas Suozzi. Santos was born to Fatima Aziza Caruza Horta Divolda and Jacinto Antonio dos Santos Jr., known as Junior, both of whom were born in Brazil. His maternal grandparents, Paula Horta Divolda and Rosalina Caruza Horta Divolda, were also born in Brazil. 3 of his 4 maternal great-grandparents were also born in Brazil. Fatima Divolda, his mother, initially immigrated to Florida as a migrant worker to pick beans in 1985. She later moved to New York City and worked as a housekeeper, cook, and nanny. Junior Santos worked as a house painter. George Santos has claimed to have dual citizenship in the United States and Brazil through his parents. Tiffany Bogosian, a New York personal injury lawyer who knew Santos in childhood, attended junior high school with him. She recalls that his family was not well off, he learned English as he grew up, and he was bullied at school. That may well suggest, of course, a lack of control environment as a consequence of being bullied and not having an economically well-off background. Santos attended intermediate school, 125, and primary school 122, in Astoria, Queens. Santos moved to Brazil, where his mother was at the time, around 2008, and lived there until 2011. 2 former acquaintances say that he competed as a drag queen in Brazilian beauty pageants in 2008 using the drag name Guitarra Ravache, with one saying that Santos began dressing in drag in the municipality in Niterói, in the Rio de Janeiro metropolitan area. A journalist has said that he interviewed Santos on video performing as Guitarra Ravache. The Brazilian news program Fantástico published a video purportedly of Santos dancing in drag at Niterói's 2007 gay parade. A Wikipedia user called Anthony Divolda, one of Santos's aliases, wrote about himself on the site in 2011, giving Santos's birth date, describing a similar family background, stating that at 17 he'd been a drag queen in a gay nightclub and had won several gay beauty pageants, and identifying 3 supposed television and movie acting credits. On January the 19th, 2023, Santos denied having been a drag queen, calling the allegations categorically false, revision of history, and accusing the media of making outrageous claims about my life, projection, blame shifting. 2 days later, he said, "I was young and I had fun at a festival, so sue me for having a life." Volte-face, contradictory behaviour, collateral consequences. While Santos lived in Brazil, an acquaintance paid him and his mother to play bingo, which was illegal gambling, illegality, lack of accountability. He left Brazil while a cheque fraud case against him there was ongoing, allegation of criminality, lack of accountability, sense of entitlement, and moved to New York City. From October 2011 to July 2012, Santos worked as a customer service representative at a call centre for Dish Network in College Point, Queens. The New York Times verified that sometimes after 2013, Santos worked for Hotels Pro, a subsidiary of a company called Met Global. In early 2016, Santos moved to Orlando, Florida, where Hotels Pro was opening an office. He registered to vote and changed his driver's license to his Florida residence. Beginning in 2017, using the name George DeVolder, Santos worked in an unconfirmed capacity for Linkbridge Investors, a small company that hosts closed-door conferences for investors. His 2019 campaign disclosure form and a company document list him as a vice president, but that same year the company president testified in a lawsuit that he was a freelancer who worked on a commission. It would appear that there were lies being told and a revision of history. In 2018, using the name Anthony DeVolder, Santos knocked on the door of a Republican, Vicky Palladino, who was then running for state senate and was later elected to the New York City Council. He asked about volunteering for her campaign, pushing for a no-kill shelter for animals to be built in College Point, and saying he worked on Wall Street and could get large donors there to contribute. After he took a few campaign signs, Palladino's staff heard little further from him. Future faking. The next year, a bid to get Santos elected to the Queens County Republican Committee failed to get enough signatures to qualify him for the ballot. In mid-January 2020, shortly after Santos launched his first campaign for Congress in November 2019, he began working for Harbor City Capital, a Florida-based alternative investment firm. The Securities and Exchange Commission filed a civil suit a year and a half later accusing the company of running a $17 million Ponzi scheme. In June, during his first run for Congress, Santos, under the name George DeVolder, opened an office for Harbor City Capital at 1345 Avenue of the Americas in Midtown Manhattan. The next month he became the firm's New York regional director. He was not personally named in the lawsuit, nor were other colleagues of his, and he has publicly denied any knowledge of the fraud. Santos claimed in a 2020 interview to be managing a $1.5 billion fund for Harbor City, with a fixed yield income return of 12% and an internal rate of return of 26%. At the time Santos took the regional director position, Harbor City had been banned from doing business in Alabama by that state's Securities Commission in response to complaints from residents. The commission alleged that the firm was out to deserve Alabamians and profit off unsuspecting investors by using dazzling marketing tactics to sell unregistered bonds. An attorney for some of the defrauded customers had said that there were aspects of Harbor City's business that would have deterred a reputable financial professional from working there. Even if you didn't know the company was operating as a fraud or a Ponzi scheme, a sophisticated person affiliated with the company should have known they weren't licensed to do what they claimed to be doing. Suggestion, therefore, that Santos was involved and linked to a suspect organisation, which calls into question his bona fides. In April 2020, Santos made a since-deleted tweet from his personal account under the name George DeVolder, saying Harbor City offered investors stability in markets, then rolled by the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, with a strategy that mitigates loss and risk while creating cash flow. Meanwhile, your principal is 100% secured by an SBLC held by various major institutions. 2 months later, an investor replied, saying that after they had received the standby letter of credit Santos referred to, Deutsche Bank told them it was a complete fraud and not signed by the bank officer on the document. Accordingly, lie, commission of fraud. In response, Santos said, "I'm sorry, I'm not following you." Vagueness, denial, and asked the investor to email him for further discussion, reassuring them that the SBLC was 100% legitimate and issued by their institution. Delusion, lie. The bank later told CNN that Harbor City had never been a client, and the SEC said the company had never received any SBLC. Bogosian and a client who had recently won a large damage award say Santos promised them at a dinner meeting in mid-November 2020 that he and Harbor City could grow their investment tenfold. Lie, future faking. In internal company meetings, Santos said that he often told prospective investors that he'd once accidentally knocked a chair over on Blackstone Inc. chief executive Stephen A. Schwartzman during a meeting in the latter's office, and that he was friends with Marcy Frost, head of CalPERS, California's public pension fund manager. Both said they had no recollection of ever meeting Santos under either his own name or as George DeVolder. Lie, revision of history. Columbus Nova CEO Andrew Intrater said he had invested $625,000 with Harbor City on the promise of a 16% annual return, and his confidence in Santos, who told him he had not only raised $100 million for the fund but invested $4 million of family money in it as his account manager. When the SEC sued in May 2021, Santos assured Intrator that a letter of credit covered his investment and that he would send a copy over. But he never did, according to Intrator. Lie. Future faking. Santos was still making these claims as late as January 2022 and saying he would try to get Intrator's money back. Future faking. The SEC said in its court filings that there never was a letter of credit, and Santos's claims to Intrator were false. Lie. Harbour City had in fact raised only $17 million, very little of which was actually invested. After receiving an initial interest payment in March 2021, Intrator has said the next month's payment was clawed back for some reason. Harbour City paid Santos at least through April 2021, after which he founded the Devolder organisation, which he has claimed as the basis of his wealth. Intrator has said Santos told him he had been let go from Harbour City before that due to conflicts with his political activities. But the company's founder has said that Santos was definitely one of the ones that got the notice that everything we had been frozen. Lie. Revision of history. Another investor Santos had pitched Harbour City to said Santos called him after the SEC suit was filed, crying that he had lost $1 million of his own as a result. Pity play. Bogosian and her client told the Post shortly afterwards that the SEC had subsequently called them, asking for more information on what Santos had told them about Harbour City at that dinner and afterwards. Santos has given inconsistent explanations of what the Devolder organisation did. According to his financial disclosures, he was the sole owner and managing member of the Devolder organisation, which he said was a family-owned company that managed $80 million in assets. On financial disclosure forms, Santos called Devolder a capital introduction consulting firm. Although based in New York, the company was registered in Florida, where it was dissolved in September 2022 for failing to file annual reports, which Santos said was because its accountant missed the annual filing deadline. Blame shifting. Lack of accountability. During his 2022 congressional campaign, Santos lent his campaign more than $700,000 and reported receiving a salary of $750,000 and dividends of between $1 million and $5 million from Devolder, even though he also listed the company's estimated value as in the same range. Suspicion of either lying or commission of fraud. Despite the claims about the company's size, Santos's financial disclosure forms did not list any clients using the company's services. 3 experts in election law interviewed by The Times said that his omission could be problematic if such clients exist. In July 2022, Dun & Bradstreet estimated Devolder's revenue at less than $50,000. On December 20th, 2022, the day after the Times article was published, Santos re-registered the Devolder organisation in Florida. John Marshall reported on Talking Point's memo that Santos listed himself as the registered agent on the paperwork, which could only be done if he lived in Florida and not New York. He gave as the company's mailing address a Merritt Island apartment purchased by a couple in August, an address also used by Harbour City's chief technology officer. Accordingly, it would seem that Mr. Santos has been involved in quite a lot of financial chicanery, with future faking, fraudulent activities, the telling of lies, revision of history, grandiosity, and showmanship, all various narcissistic indicators. However, we were just getting warmed up with regard to the activity of George Santos. Not only is it the case that he utilises different names, which shows a fluidity with regard to identity, something commensurate with the false self, it's demonstrable that he is a complete stranger to the truth as everybody else understands it to be. And you'll learn more about that in the next part. Join me there.